She hung up on me, right in the middle of a sentence. One moment I was calmly offering advice. The next, dead silence. No goodbye, no thank you, no I'll call you back. Just a click and a flat tone that rang louder than any shouting ever could. All I said was that maybe her youngest needed more structure. The boy had been throwing tantrums, refusing to eat anything but sugar, and hitting his older brother. I didn't criticize. I simply offered what had worked for her when she was 5. But to her, it was an attack. "Dad, you don't understand how parenting works anymore," she said. "This isn't the world you raised kids in." And then, click. I stared at the phone, stunned. Just an hour before, I had driven across town to drop off groceries. Diapers, formula, snacks, things she said she couldn't afford this month. I didn't even say anything about the fact that her husband was always out golfing while she did everything alone. I just wanted to help. That's all I've ever done. But it's like somewhere along the way, my experience stopped mattering. My role shifted from father and protector to outdated nuisance. And for the first time since her mother passed, I felt like I had truly lost my daughter. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. Raising Emily wasn't easy, but I never missed a beat. When her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, Emily was only 10. I had to become both parents overnight, packing lunches, brushing her hair before school, sewing costumes for plays. I wasn't perfect, but I was there. Always there. Emily was the kind of kid who asked deep questions. Why do people get sick? Do stars die? She was curious, bright, and incredibly sensitive. After her mom passed, she went quiet for a long time. I used to sit outside her bedroom door just to hear her breathing. I did everything to give her stability. Worked long shifts at the hardware store, picked up weekend jobs, mowing lawns just so she could go on that class trip to D.C. One Christmas, I sold my guitar, my last real connection to music, so she could have the sneakers all the other girls were wearing. She always told me, "You're my hero, Dad." That stuck with me. It made every sacrifice worth it. Years later, when she met Kyle, I wasn't thrilled. He seemed lazy, quick to judge, always talking over her. But she loved him. She said he made her laugh again. So I bit my tongue. When they had their first child, I was there with baby clothes, formula, rocking the newborn in the middle of the night so she could sleep. When the second came along, I started paying part of their rent. Not because they asked, but because I knew they needed help. All I ever wanted was to be the father she could count on. But now, I realize, I might have made it too easy to take me for granted. 2 days after the call, Emily texted me. No apology. Just, "Sorry I snapped. Kyle thinks we need space." Space? After everything I had done, I was being asked to stay away as if I was a burden. I waited a few days before replying. I wanted to calm down, but the longer I waited, the more it hurt. Every memory of rocking her to sleep, every hospital visit, every birthday I planned alone while grieving, it all came crashing back. I finally replied, "Understood. I'll step back." Her response? A thumbs-up emoji, like I was a handyman finishing a job, not the man who raised her. That weekend, I drove past their house. My grandson's bike was in the yard. One of the wheels bent. The porch light was still flickering, just like it had been for weeks. I always fixed things, quietly, without being asked, but I didn't stop this time. I kept driving, tears clouding my vision. I pulled into a gas station and just sat there, staring out the windshield. That's when I realized I had become invisible. Not just ignored, erased. All my efforts, all my advice, all my presence. Suddenly labeled outdated. I was no longer the father who sacrificed. I was the man who doesn't get it. I thought of the envelope I had been meaning to update, the one in my desk drawer. My will. My modest savings. The house Kyle and Emily had been living in rent-free for almost a year while figuring things out. The house was still in my name. And for the first time in months, I felt clarity. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about teaching a lesson. It was about finally valuing myself the way no one else had been willing to. If my experience was unwanted, my support would follow. Have you ever felt like your years of experience and sacrifice were suddenly labeled as outdated by your own children? Share your story in the comments below. We read every single one. The next morning, I made coffee the way I always did. 2 scoops, boiling water, and a splash of cream. But this time, I sat at the kitchen table with a different kind of clarity. I pulled out my old legal folder. Everything was still in order. The deed to the house, the will, insurance, and a letter I'd written years ago, back when Emily first became a mom. It was full of hope. I had dreamed of being the kind of grandfather who got to build birdhouses and sneak cookies behind Mom's back. Now, that letter just felt like a relic from a different life. I called my lawyer. "I'd like to make a few changes," I said. He didn't even ask why. Maybe he could hear it in my voice, the kind of calm that doesn't need explaining. That afternoon, I visited the house. Emily and Kyle weren't home, but the lights were on, and I let myself in with my key. I left a letter on the kitchen counter, right under the bills I used to help pay. No confrontation, no grand speech, just the truth, neatly written, folded twice, and sealed with the kind of dignity they didn't seem to recognize anymore. In the letter, I explained that I'd sold the house, that the closing date was in 2 weeks, that I'd paid for movers to help them pack, and that I hoped they'd find a space where they could raise their children the way they believed was best, on their own terms. I ended it with the same line I used to tell Emily every time she fell off her bike as a child. "You're strong enough to do this, but you have to want it." I walked out, locked the door, and didn't look back. 2 weeks passed. Emily didn't call. Neither did Kyle. But I got an email from the real estate agent. The keys were handed over, the papers signed. It was done. I didn't attend the move-out. I figured that was their moment to face reality. Not mine. I imagined Kyle reading the letter first, probably laughing, thinking it was a bluff. Then the panic. Then the phone calls that never reached me because I'd already changed my number. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because they needed to learn something the hard way. I moved into a small apartment in a quiet town just outside the city. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I filled it with photographs of better days. Days when I held Emily's hand crossing the street. When she brought home scribbled cards for Father's Day. When she believed I hung the stars. I still believe she's in there somewhere, but I'm no longer chasing that version of her. Last week I got a letter. No return address, but I knew her handwriting. It said, "I didn't expect you to actually do it. I thought you'd always be there no matter how I acted. I was wrong. I think I needed this. I just wish it didn't hurt so much. I haven't responded yet. Some things take time, and some apologies aren't for fixing, just for understanding. Maybe one day we'll meet again. Not as father and daughter stuck in disappointment, but as 2 people who finally saw each other clearly. Until then, I'll keep walking forward, quietly, calmly, with love, but not with regret. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your own experiences with difficult family boundaries in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.